Hello and welcome to what is going to be quite a fun podcast, I think, this week. This week we are going to be looking at the Magnum Opus armies and the different plans that each of the three team members here had for the Magnum Opus. So we're going to start a little bit with my list, and then we're going to talk about Minion's sort of plans, and then we'll talk about Croydon's plans. So whilst I'm talking about mine, I am joined here with Minion.
Hello.
So he's going to sort of help me and drop hints about me, whether or not I want something else or want to change bits, but we're just basically going to be having a discussion today about what I'd plan to take in my Magnum Opus army. Okay, so for the Magnum Opus army, I started in the correct place, and I think it's the only correct place. Would you agree?
Yeah.
You start big, you work down. That's the way I look at it. So I started with the Titans. What Titans do I want in my own mana pool to then take alongside my armies? Whether that's a Space Marine army, whether that's my Custodes, whether it's multiple Space Marines armies and my Custodes. It was, what Titans do I want in the army? And I think I did an admirable job with the plan. I think, so the plan as it stands was having 2 Warlords, 2 Reavers, and then 4 Warhounds. I think that's a decent plan. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a stellar plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've already expressed to me before we started recording what I need more of. Do you remember what that one was?
Yeah, you definitely need to get at least a few more Reaver Titans. They are my all-time favourite Titan.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned before on a podcast that it is your favourite Titan. I didn't say it there, but I will say it now that you're here and I can say it to your face. You're wrong. They aren't the best Titan. They shouldn't be your favourite Titan. They are one of the worst. I would take a Nemesis Titan before I take a Reaver Titan. Come on. What do they have to offer that none of the other Titans do?
They're the perfect mixture of quantity and quality. For every Warlord you have, I could have 2 Reaver Titans.
Nearly. We talked about this. Nearly.
Close enough that it doesn't matter.
I mean, that's the same though with Warhounds and Reavers.
Warhounds is all quality at that point. There's not enough quantity.
But there's more Warhounds.
I realise I say that with it being a Titan still, that there's no quality, but it doesn't have the same oomph behind its guns that it needs to have.
But if you're taking 2 Reavers, why not just take a Warlord? It's cheaper,
barely,
money and points-wise, but also it's a lot cooler because it's taller, it's bigger, its guns go bang louder.
My Titans don't need to just stride forward and decimate everything. That's what...
That's the point of a Titan, is it not?
No, the Titan I have in mind is to support the army.
Okay, so you would take a Reaver with an army. Okay,
100%.
And now I've got a radical idea for you. Why not take a Warlord with an army?
Because at that point you get into too high a level of points.
Why
an average game?
I'm going to quote Mean Girls here to you. The limit does not exist. There is no limit to points. We need to be playing... I've said this to you before. I've said this thousands of times. We need to be playing games that are in the 10, 20,000 points worth. Go down to Warhammer World, play on that, the big... I forget what it's called. The bridge board. The one that's...
With all the ruined fortifications.
Yeah, that one. You can do a proper Titan march on. We need to be playing on that board, that size of board, on a weekly basis, I think. So you'll get your money's worth. I think that was the first thing I realised with the Warlord. You don't get your money's worth out of games because your friends, when we were playing at the local Games Workshop, have to band together, and by that point not everyone's free at the same time, or not everyone can make it to Warhammer World. I remember the first game we played with it down at Warhammer World. Do you remember? You used Custodes, and we were playing against some other friends from Games Workshop who took Eldar, Nids, and I think Mechanicum, but I could be wrong on that one. But no, that was a lot of fun. There's actually some pictures, I think they're on the website, of that game, because that was just such a cool game, and everybody that walked past, because we were near the entrance, were we?
Yeah.
Everybody that walked past actually stopped to have a look at this striding forwards warlord titan that was about to decimate some nids. So, but no, I planned on the warlord titans first. That was the that was the surefire bet. Now, I wanted to have at least one. Obviously, I've already got Morilette ad Mortem. It was originally going to be sort of one warlord, 2 reavers, and then 3 or 4 warhounds, because that's sort of the classic maniple, isn't it? Like
100% classic mainstay maniple of old.
And that is, if you actually buy the forge-oiled maniple, you get 1 warlord, 2 reavers, and 2 warhounds. So you're sort of 1 or 2 warhounds away from the proper maniple. But then, with the sort of evolution of the lore and what's happening with the Siege of Terror and sort of where the Siege of Terror got to, and also Titanicus coming out, changed my mind with what I wanted to add in. And the Ordo Sinister, we'd heard a little bit about it. We talked about it when I'd got my Warlord, sort of the Sinister pattern. The rules did exist because Inferno was out.
Yeah.
So it was at the beginning, I sort of said to you I didn't want to do a Psi Titan because it was more points. The gun and the head wasn't out, but the rules were. But it also meant that it would always be missing something. It would always be missing its arm, and it wouldn't be like what we would expect from a Sinister Pattern Titan. Now, when Forge World brought Titanicus out and brought out the Psi Titan, it meant that we finally had something to put our finger on and say, that's what a Psi Titan actually looks like. And I think when... Well, because you bought the Psi Titan first, didn't you? You bought one. Yeah. I wasn't bothered at first because you were doing Loyalists for Titanicus, weren't you?
Oddly enough, yeah.
Yeah. I was doing Traitors again. Well, actually, at the time that wasn't odd because my Titans were already painted in the Traitor scheme, weren't they? They were painted for Legio Ulricon. So Psi Titan wasn't on the cards for me, and it was only with the Custodes army that made me go Loyalist for... Again, I've mentioned it in lots of podcasts, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Dembski Bowden should be giving me commission for the amount of times I recommend it. But The Master of Mankind by Aaron Dembski Bowden, it just changed my perception of the whole Horus Heresy from thinking of this man who wants to become a god and, leave everybody else to then actually know this man is working for the betterment of humanity, and he's going out and he's fighting against the demons to for humanity to be able to survive. So it was reading that book that made me want to look into the Custodes and buy the army, and then having the Custodes force and having 20,000 points worth of Custodes made me want to make it a lore friendly army with my other models. And that started with the Warhounds, so having the 2 Warhounds from Legio Ignatum that are guarding the Eternity Gate. To me, it meant that I was sort of showing something off in the lore, and having a Psi Titan then became a natural progression. And I think you'll agree it's snowballed from there, hasn't it?
Massively so.
So in the collection at the moment, I do have 2 Warlords. So the Morilette ad Mortem, so that's just a standard Fire Wasp Warlord. I do also have Tenebrae et Spiritus, which is the Psi Titan. That's what I call my Psi Titan. I do also have 2 Reavers. I've got Custos Eternum, which was originally your Reaver, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yes. Now, you've always said it's your favourite Titan, so I'm not going to ask you why you bought it, but you asked me to build it for you, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
I'd sort of got a little bit of sort of experience with bigger models, so I built it up for you. And the building process, it's such a, I won't say intimate, but it's such a sort of bonding experience that I ended up falling in love with the model. So I ended up buying it off of you and saying, no, this is now mine. I want to keep it. And from there, the Custos Eternum, the Reaver Titan, became my Titan. And then Centurio Aquilonis was added, the Centurion of the North. He was added in as well. So, and I've got my 2 Reavers. So that Titan size is done, I think, for the Magnum Opus. I know, yeah, you just rolled your eyes there, but I'm not.
You say that for now.
Well, I just don't see any advantage to it. Like having a Warlord with turbo lasers on its shoulders and then having 2 Bellicosas, I think, is 1,000 times. I would rather take that than 3 Reavers. I think, because if you think about it, I suppose Reavers have sort of the maneuverability in the sense that they're smaller, so they might be able to hide a little bit better behind a vehicle, behind a building, to have like a cover save or anything like that. But the Warlord's just cool.
It is a very, very cool model.
Yeah. Now, and the first Titan I actually got after the Warlord, not counting Custos Eterna and the Reaver, was Lupus Ignis. So he was one of the fire. He was one of the warhounds that I got, and I called him Lupus Ignis because I actually got him, and he's the only Titan that I did this based on the rules. But I actually based it on the rules of 8th edition.
Yes, yeah.
Because the Flamers were
absolutely horrifying to fight.
I think they were 18-inch range, 4d6 shots
each,
damage 3, strength 7,
minus 3 AP.
Yeah, and it just absolutely. I just thought, it'd be stupid not to take something like that.
This was during the time when I was originally doing Custodes.
Yes.
And fighting a warhound that will burn you as you charge it was not the greatest thing, even with Custodes.
You might have a 2-up armor save, but not when because you prefer the Guardian Spear side of Custodes, don't you? So you would have like a 4-up invuln in 8th edition. This is so you have a 4-up invuln, and the warhound would put you on your 4-up invuln, and when it's 3 damage, if you fail 1, each one of them is a Custodes gone, which is.
Quite a painful loss.
Yeah, devastating. And then the next Titan that was added for the Warhounds was Cirrus Fidelis, which Croydon actually bought for me as a birthday present one year, I think, I think it was a birthday present. She bought me that one, that one came armed with the plasma gun on the right arm and the Vulcan Mega Bolter on the left arm. So that one was a bit of a different pace for a Titan.
Very classic look for the Warhound.
Yeah, and especially with the fact that they're sort of the arms that they do for the Plasma and the Vulcan are only left and right orientated anyway. It meant that it sort of really fits together quite nicely. So that was the Titan that was next added, and then finally. And this is because of Forge World not bringing back the Nemesis with the Quake Cannon or the Volcano Cannon in stock, just purely because of obviously the pandemic happened, so their production got pushed back. But I then got the next Warlord Titan. Now, adding £50 or £20 onto virtual vouchers over a time period really does sort of help spread out the cost of things, and I've mentioned that in sort of Strategic Painting a History, and it just sort of was sitting there in the virtual voucher account, and the Warlord was in stock, and I thought, well, I've been looking at the Psi Titan, I've been thinking about it, I've just read Mortis, the book, because I was fortunate enough to get a copy of it in January with the special edition. So I just finished Mortis, and something really, I'm not going to spoil anything, Minion hasn't read it yet, but there was something really cool that happened, and I went, right, that's it, Psi Titan needs to happen. So that was when Tenebrae et Spiritus got added into the army as well. So that's sort of where I started with the Magnum Opus. So yeah, two of each Titan when they're bigger ones. So 2 Warlords, 2 Reavers, and then 4 Warhounds. And then for the Psi pattern or the Sinister pattern, 1 Psi Titan, so 1 Warlord, and then 1 Nemesis chassis, so that I've got sort of the middleman and something a bit cooler for that. Now, when it came to then adding in troops and adding in, because you can't have a big army of Titans, can you? You can't just have Titans.
No, you need your support.
Yeah, exactly. A support army, and what's better to support than the Emperor's finest? And by that, I don't mean Space Marines.
No, of course we do mean the Golden Boys.
The Golden Boys, the themselves, and the name that I hate that you call them is the Stormcast in space.
Yeah.
But the Custodes themselves, the support army here, they were sort of the crux of the army, and as I mentioned, they were the thing that started me off on this journey, having all these Custodes, and I think I've got 219 models at last count, so that's a fair few Custodes there as a backup for my Titans, but that was sort of where we talked about it when I'd sort of grown that army and added Titans. We think that having an army of like a Magnum Opus, you used the phrase first with me, Magnum Opus, as having like your masterpiece army, the final army, and that's sort of, we were both growing up, you know, our lives are sort of progressing, and you know, kids and weddings and things like that might happen in the future, so you know, hobby budgets are going to be sort of stretched a little bit tighter. So the fact that we would have an army that's fully painted, fully based and ready to go in boxes, in cases, ready to be sort of used, I think is going to be useful to get it sorted now, so that in the few years that are coming, or in the years to come, we're sort of prepared for whatever happens, kind of thing. So it was then, obviously, Custodes were added in, but I thought, well, I can't, and it was actually Rhodey, I assume he's probably listened to this episode and he's listening this far, but by saying that the Custodes were too tough to play against, so he wanted me to get a Space Marine army. So I sort of had a look around and had a shop, and I think you mentioned the Dark Angels to me, and I threw up in my mouth quite a lot, because being a Night Lords player to start off with, I swore I would never touch them, but I think it was the Inner Circle Cenobium Knights that got me
Terminators.
in. Yeah, the Terminators from Forge World. So that was sort of like, you weren't wanting yours anymore, so I decided I would have those and paint them up, and that was sort of, again, the snowball effect into having this nice Space Marine Legion, really. Like, I had the Stormbird that wasn't painted at the time, and Lockdown 1 really helped with that, because I sort of thought, you know what, actually, I'll use this time to get the Stormbird painted, which is the biggest footprint model that I've got in my collection, and it meant that because they were teasing Crusade, weren't they, on the community page, and they did an artwork of a Stormbird, and I thought that just looks so cool, and I think I messaged it to you and said, this is what I'll base the Stormbird off, because it was such a sort of a nice image that I was really struggling to find something the Stormbird would fit with quite nicely, and I think having it in black and red, it looks cool.
Yeah,
I think
anybody agree with you there. It is a fantastic looking.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. So that was sort of the Space Marine contingent sorted. So I had a Space Marine army against Rhodey. I had sort of my Custodes as well. I then thought, well, why stop there? Why not sort of look at, you know, other things? And we've known about the Imperial Fortress from Forge World for I don't know how a long time, and I don't think we were in the Forge World sector when it was released and when it was available, and so we could never get the opportunity to get one, and it's always been a pipe dream. And I think sort of getting in, like, with technology advancing and stuff, and people sort of 3D printing things, somebody 3D printed sort of a fortress-esque model that looks a bit like a fortress for me. So that was then the next thing that Croydon then bought me for the following birthday. So we've now got Imperial Fortress for this Magnum Opus army. And then it was sort of a thought of, well, why not do a small contingent or a contingent of every Loyalist Space Marine Legion for the Magnum Opus? Now, I actually decided against that after a while, just purely because the financial side of being able to do something like that is a big undertaking, and something like that, you know, you need a lot of time and money to be able to sort of do that. But I thought what the next thing, or the best thing to finish off out of my backlog, would be the Imperial Knights. So I've mentioned in my Imperial Knight podcast that I sort of managed to clear quite a few of the models whilst lockdown had happened. So yeah, that was sort of the next step from Space Marine. So I basically sort of, I suppose without realising it, I've modelled it on the Valdor character book, the character series book, where it's Valdor and Custodians plus the Dark Angels Legion as the first legion fighting out of the Imperial Palace against the Thunder Warriors. So I've sort of gone first legion, the first of the 10,000, Imperial Knight House, House Tyrannus, that sort of have got very strong oaths and ties to Legio Ignatum, and then Legio Ignatum themselves, the first sort of loyalist, the oldest loyalist Legio. So I think that's a very long roundup, I suppose, of my Magnum Opus. You've said to me already that you've not planned it down to the detail like I have, because you're more of not a hobby butterfly, but a guy that, you like to have lots of ideas, and
little projects.
I don't think you ever fully decide on something in time before you've thought of something else. I think
No.
So with your Magnum Opus, where do you see it going? Let's start at the basics. What do you think is going to be the first thing that you add into it?
The first chunk I'm hoping to complete is a Legio Mortis maniple, not quite a maniple, but basically Reaver Titan with a fully fledged support army of Secretary tanks and a few Armiger Knights to support it.
Well, you had me until you said Reaver Titan. When you said Mortis Maniple, I thought, fantastic, this is going to be Warlords, this is going to be Bane Lords maybe. Maybe we could see a converted Warlord in the future, but then you said Reaver and I thought, forget it. Nah, it's alright.
Well, don't rule out a converted Warlord in the future, you never know.
Well, yeah, maybe if Forge World ever did one, it'd be something that, I think that would be a sight to behold if they ever did a Bane Lord. That would be... Well, they need to do it for Titanicus, I think, first, to
definitely
sort of have a base.
I would love a few Bane Lords to go stomping around.
Yeah, well, after painting that Chaos Warhound, I must admit the Chaos Titans are very, very beautiful. So
much superior to the baseline Titans, of course.
Don't say that, I won't say that. So what else do you think you could see in the army?
From there, I've also hoping to build up a auto reductor drill army, pretty much using the Terax pattern termite drills, as well as the Ordinatus one, the giant, huge drill of doom.
Yeah, the scary one.
Yeah, the amazing, beautiful piece of machinery. Just to have a whole army that comes up underground, drills up, says hello, and kills you.
Well, I must admit, the Ordinatus chassis, I mentioned it in my Mechanicum video podcast when I was talking about what I would add. I always like the Sonic Cannon variant.
The Ulator.
Ulatar, yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the Ulator. There's just the Sonic Cannon on top just looks awesome.
It is fantastic. In fact, there is a reference to it in a book I read several years ago, the Wordbearers Omnibus.
All right.
Where the Mechanicum are advanced upon this Wordbearer fortress that they're building. It's a giant tower of blood, stone, and corpses, as you'd expect.
Pretty standard for a Wordbearer.
And unfortunately, there's a mountain range in the way of the army. So, rather than going around because they haven't got time or going over, they just demolish the mountainside with this Ordinatus slowly trundling forward, rupturing the bodies of all the cultists and demon engines and terminators that they can throw.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I know they used to do the Ordinatus, is it Sagittar?
Yeah.
The volcano cannon. Unfortunately, they don't do that one anymore. That was one I think both of us were interested in because it has a volcano cannon.
Yeah, just a warlord's arm being driven around.
Yeah, and the fact that, one thing that bothered me about it, and we talked about it years ago, was the fact of deployment. How do you deploy within 12 inches on a standard 6x4 table? How do you deploy a model that's 17 inches long in a 12-inch deployment zone without sacrificing the fact that people are shooting at your rear or side armors? Like it's an amazing kit. Don't get me wrong, but I'd be worried the whole time.
Well, it's where the amazing shielding comes into place. The first turn, it's -3 strength to your weapons, or if you happen to have a destroyer weapon, it's -3 to the table roll.
Well, that I think is just a bit OP. Luckily, and I count my lucky stars every day, I wake up and I think, thank goodness I'm still alive, and thank goodness Minion hasn't bought one yet.
Yet is the key word there for definite.
So, yeah, but are there any sort of, for the Auto Reductor list, is there anything else that you'll be taking? Is there anything sort of big, any other big things you'll be taking?
There is a model that the Auto Reductor can take, the Minotaur artillery tank. It's basically just a big whack-off tank with two earth-shaped cannons strapped to the back of it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the back, not the front. It is a backwards-facing tank.
Right. Well, fair enough. I don't think I know that one off the top of my head.
Well, it's originally from the Deathcore of Krieg.
Ah, I see. Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Then that's probably why I don't know it, because deathcore are actually something that I was going to talk to you about in one of the podcasts in the future, because you have always liked the deathcore, haven't you?
I have. I can't lie about that. It is.
Do you see any sort of using any deathcore for militia or anything for?
Potentially, yeah. I've had a bit of a think about using them. Maybe corrupting them up a bit, breaking the gas masks, and dedicating them all to Nurgle.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I imagine quite a lot of people have had that thought.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose it's... Well, gas masks are usually good at protecting you from Nurgle, and if they've got a crack in them, then, you know, you're pretty...
They're not the best when they've got cracks in.
No, yeah, you're pretty stuffed. So what else then for sort of your Mechanicum would you take? Have you sort of looked at any of the Mechanicum Knights or anything sort of else from...
There's never going to be denying the potential of a Night House,
right?
Or at least a few Lancers of them coming in.
Mm-hmm.
There are some fantastic Knights. I know one of your favourites is the Porphyrion.
Yep, definitely. I've still not used it, but maybe one day.
Yeah, you never know.
Do you see yourself getting a Porphyrion, do you think?
If I was to add the Knights, then I would definitely be adding at least one Porphyrion, if not two.
Yeah, well, the reason I got mine was because of just how sort of brutal the rules were in 8th edition, because we were playing 8th edition at the time, and it's just not seen the table for 30k, unfortunately. Maybe one day, maybe I should, take the Fortress and Knights. It might be the thing that we realised in our game, the last game that we played, was it's tough to get tanks out of a fortress when other tanks have been destroyed right where everyone needs to drive out. So perhaps Knights might be easier because they might be able to walk a bit further out.
Yeah.
Than driving 6 inches.
Might get a bit further.
Yeah. So
before I have to build another wall of tank shells.
Dead bodies. So yeah. But what else do you see coming then in the Mechanicum? With the Mechanicum being sort of the support force for the Titans, is there anything else you want to add, or is that sort of where you could see the Mechanicum finishing?
No, I still have quite a lot I'm hoping to do. Really would like to do a proper full Cybernetica army.
Okay, yeah. What would you put in that?
Well, obviously a lot of Castellax. Just a few big blobs of those.
I feel like perhaps you have enough in the sense of the plan anyway. Why do you need more?
More is always better.
Well, okay.
I don't think anyone here could argue with that.
I could try. Give me a piece of paper and a pen in 10 minutes. I'll give it a go.
I think I could counter-argue that by just pointing at your custodes.
Okay, alright then.
Without too much concern.
Yeah, so in the Cybernetica force, would it just be Castellax, or would there be something else?
I know there would be full-size units of Thanatars.
And by full-size you mean...
Triples, striding forth.
I'm feeling a little bit sick now. I think we're going to have to...
their Domini.
I think we're going to have to stop it here. I'm feeling a little bit lightheaded. This is... Perhaps maybe Magnum Opus armies aren't that good an idea. The trouble with the Thanatar is it's a gargantuan creature, so monstrous creature, so it doesn't abide by vehicle rules. So having things like Haywire or Melter or anything like that doesn't affect it.
No, you don't get the extra bonuses.
But then it's you've got its AP, it's got its armour of 2, its toughness 8. It's essentially a slower Wraith Knight from 7th edition.
Yeah, it's a better Wraith Knight.
Well, no, because the Wraith Knight had 2 D cannons on his arms.
You get a single one of them in a slot. I will take 9 Thanatars and not even blink.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then when you bring relics into it eventually, the Cortica Primus, being able to give the entire unit cyberphagy, so I can fight twice in combat or shoot twice with their plasma mortars.
No, that's the variant I've got, the plasma mortar variant. Yeah. Do you see yourself getting any of the other one? Is it the Calyx?
The Calyx, yes. Well, with the Fortress being bought out a bit more, I believe the Graviton Ram.
Yeah.
With its fantastic rules will be quite useful.
Well, I think you plan to have the plasma in the game that we last played, and then when you saw the Fortress, you asked me quickly if you could swap it.
Yeah.
I had no problem. It's a friendly game. It's our first game in like a year. It's a friendly game. Fine, let's do it. Let's play some, roll some dice, watch things blow up. But yeah, that graviton ram was strength D in combat.
Against fortifications and buildings, yeah.
Yeah, it was a headache because it was pretty much, I'm running up to this piece of wall, I automatically hit because you're a piece of wall, and now you're gone because this is strength D, and I couldn't really do anything, could I? You were sort of popping bits of the wall off left, right, and centre, and perhaps I need to rethink my targeting priority, because the Warhound didn't seem to do much.
No, it was quite lacklustre in comparison.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the next game we should see if you can take a Chaos Reaver or something, because that you have a fascination with them, so support the brand and use it.
Once again, coming back to the Warhound, you were distracted by it enough for the rest of the army to get in.
Yeah, to be fair, I did ignore a whole unit of Secutari for the whole game, purely because they were running up the side, and I just thought, I'll just leave it and see what they get up to. Like, they're Secutari, I've got some of them, they're not that bad, and no, they are that bad. They are good at getting rid of buildings with the haywire and stuff.
Yeah, the Arc Lancers just sticking a building with a stick and it falls over.
Yeah, so it was fun, but not fun in the sense that I need to prioritise. So with the Titans, have you decided any firm plans on which and how many, or
no firm plans as yet? But the overall plan is a corrupted warlord dedicated to Nurgle, so like a plague lord, and then a pair of Reavers.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Once again, of course, dedicated to Nurgle in Legion.
Oh, so like, would you do like a Cyclopean?
Yeah, so it'd be like 2 plague bearers with the Reavers, and then the warlord would be a Great Unclean One.
Oh, that'd be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, I'd like to see that, and I'll definitely win because for the Emperor.
You're missing the eyes.
So basically, I think, is that a good overarch of your Mechanicum plans?
Yeah.
Would you say? Yeah. Is there anything you'd plan to take alongside it, or is it just Mechanicum and Titans and maybe some Knights?
I have a few ideas. I'm hoping to add in a Legion force, whether that's Death Guard for Nurgle or Word Bearers.
Right.
All-time favourite Legion, as they are the best.
Well, if no, I don't agree.
Lorgar, Erebus, Corferon, there would be no heresy.
I don't swear on this podcast, but if I could, I think everyone knows what I think about Erebus. And I think a lot of people agree with me. I think the Horus Heresy wouldn't have happened without him. So
exactly so.
Nice
we wouldn't
one.
have this amazing game to play.
That's I've got Erebus to thank for all my win. Wait, because of Erebus, he puts me in a bad mood when I lose. Then, so brilliant. Well, so Word Bearers or Death Guard, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why not both?
Possibly.
It might give me a nudge if you were to do both. It might give me a nudge because I've been eyeing up Imperial Fists for the Fortress because what's better than having the Imperial Fists at the Eternity Gate?
Yeah.
For a game, I think that would.
Plus, you could build a wall of Marines and shields on your wall.
Exactly, I could double wall up.
That would be intimidating to face.
Yeah, I mean, a wall on a wall. Yeah, but yeah. So you're sort of thinking Death Guard or maybe Word Bearers. What is it about the Word Bearers that stopped you in the past? If it's been your all-time favourite Legion,
trying to get the red to look how I want it to, as well as making the Marines look chaotic but not too chaotic.
Right, yeah.
Hopefully starting from like the Mark III or Mark IV kits and chaosifying them a bit.
Yeah. I can understand that there. I think the red is the reason why I would never personally consider trying Word Bearers. I think they're a very a unique army in the sense that the colour, I think, matches their aesthetic and the way that they are perceived in the lore.
Yeah, it's a very specific shade that I feel suits them best.
Yeah, and we've seen quite a few different ones. We've seen sort of a metallic variant where people have done Lead Belcher and then Flesh Terror red over the top, the contrast paint. And while they're cool and they're sort of a nice alternative colour scheme, I think you're a stickler for wanting that red.
There's a very definite shade that sticks with me.
Yeah.
And the dice that Forge World have done recently are quite close to that shade.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Probably the closest I can imagine.
Yeah. What would you have in the word bearer army then? Would you have the characters? Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
I'd have to have at least one of the characters in every game.
yeah. Well, just not Erebus, unless. In fact, do you know what? Take Erebus. Please take Erebus. Every game, he's going to be the first one dead.
I'd be happy to take Erebus and say 18, 19 Galvor back in a Charybdis pod and just drop it down in your face.
Why are you the way that you are? I mean, it was our anniversary, mine and Croydon's 4-year anniversary a few weeks ago, and she ordered something from Forge World for me, and it came, and I took the delivery from the postman, and the box that it had come in, I knew that it was a specific character size box, and I thought it was Alexis Pollux because it's the same size as the model that she actually got me. So I was feeling confident, like, oh, I already know what you've got me. I don't need to sort of get excited or anything. It's fine. And I opened the box, and we nearly lasted 4 years to the day because when I saw that it was Lorgar in this box,
The greatest Primarch.
the worst Primarch, I didn't know what to do, and I've now got him, so he's completed the collection. But yeah, just Lorgar, Erebus. Without them, this wouldn't have happened. The Imperium would be, the Webway project would have been completed.
We'd still have Magnus to complain about doing nothing wrong.
No, but Magnus only did nothing wrong because Horus turned traitor because Erebus turned him traitor when Horus got stabbed on Davin. So actually, it's still Erebus's fault.
So once again, thank you, Erebus.
No, something else, Erebus. So, right, okay, well, we've talked about sort of your word bearers. With Death Guard, what would you sort of see yourself taking out of Death Guard?
Terminators. Lots and lots and lots of Terminators, and potentially a trio of Mastodons.
What, to put them in?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Why not? That's a silly question.
Mortarion, Death Shroud, Grave Wardens, and then 3 Mastodons to drill through the walls and deliver the plaguey goodness that is the Death Guard.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested in playing against 3 Mastodons, I'll be honest. I'll take a Warlord or 3 against it. 1 for each Mastodon, I think that's
I
best.
suppose I could drill through your legs instead.
I mean, you're not getting that close, trust me.
And Mortarion is a beast. I don't know if he'd be able to beat a Warlord in combat, but
yeah,
I'd probably be willing to give it a go.
It would be nice if Forge World ever did sort of demonic version, see if there's like a middle version of him between the 40k version and the Heresy version.
With the cover of Warhawk that we've seen so far, though, he does look very close to the current
yeah, he does,
40k version.
Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the Heresy version or the 40k?
I love both models equally.
Love both models equally, but I know for a fact that you've already sold one of those models. You bought one and sold one. Did you not?
I do. I do still also have a copy of Demon Mortarion.
Do you?
Unbuilt.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that makes my point moot then.
Well,
I suppose. But is there anything else from the Death Guard that you think you could see yourself taking?
No, I'd be quite happy with just a lot of all the Terminators.
Is there a right of war that you can take them, Terminators, as troops? There's one for the veterans. And
Pride of a Legion lets you take Terminators as troops, and that would include the Death Shroud. The Grave Wardens would still be heavy support, though.
Right, okay. Well, that'd be quite a cool sort of list to do, and I think, if you're Nurglifying your Titans, I think Death Guard would be a very good complementary force to that.
Yeah, they'd fit in a lot better.
Yeah, so, well, maybe I think it's been a good discussion, and sort of we can always do another podcast down the line of anything that's been decided and any steps that we've taken. I think it'd be good to do sort of a catch-up version of this sort of series of podcasts, just because we can then talk a bit more about it. And as I say, I'll be talking with Croydon soon about her sort of Magnum Opus plans and where she sees it going when she joins me after we've finished our conversation. So is there anything else that you could see yourself wanting to talk about in the Magnum Opus?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
One more project I'm definitely set on. I've not fully decided the details of which, however, but it is a cybernetic force to go in with the mech, of course. Mm-hmm. But they won't be mech. They'd be using either the Legion of Astartes rules or militia.
Right.
I can't really decide on which yet.
Alright.
It would either be like a cybernetically resurrected army of Iron Hand that my Artmagos Varnak has brought back to life and using his own like private army of
That'd be cool.
cyber slaves, basically.
Oh, that'd be cool. So sort of like any of the dead bodies from Istvan,
Yeah.
maybe.
They
Yeah.
extracted the gene seed, stuck a bunch of more technical bits in, brought them back to life and said, go kill.
Oh, that's pretty cool, that. And
Yeah.
then what about the militia with that?
Similar sort of thing, obviously just not Astartes. There'd be blokes from the battlefields that they found, maybe that grown in some clone tanks and whatnot. So we really want to get like a flesh factory,
Yeah.
big monstrous walk-in vehicle, growing people and just deploying fresh soldiers to the battlefield.
Oh wow, no, that sounds pretty cool. I would love, as I say, some of the ideas you come up with. It's beggars belief how you come up with them, because I sort of look at the models on Games Workshop and go, oh, they're nice, I'll get them and do them just exactly like that. And you then look at them and go, actually, this piece and this piece and this set and this other, from Age of Sigmar, so from even a different game system, would look good together. So yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be really cool to see. So yeah, well, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's everything.
Fantastic. Well, we'll get you in again soon and talking about sort of the Magnum Opus and where you see it going in the future. That'll be absolutely great. So, well, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, bye.
So I am now joined with Croydon herself.
Hello.
Hello. Now we're going to talk about your Magnum Opus. We've just had Minion in talking about his, and I've sort of talked about mine. Now, I think as the newest team member here, Croydon's actually a unique standpoint regarding her Magnum Opus, because essentially me and Minion have been doing this hobby for donkey's years, and we've sort of got armies in behind us of sort of practices and failed attempts perhaps, whereas Croydon herself has sort of come in with no hobby, and is whatever she's done since starting can be included in that Magnum Opus. So to start off with, would you like to tell everybody what armies you've actually already got?
Yep, so at the moment I'm doing my Space Wolves, which is probably the biggest army that I've done so far. Originally I had a Primaris unit.
Yeah, you had the Dark Imperium half of the Primaris stuff, so you had sort of 20 intercessors and lots of different units for your Primaris army, which you said they weren't Ultramarines, is that right?
Definitely not.
Definitely, so they are Ultramarines.
No, they're definitely not Ultramarines.
Right, okay.
because
I just thought
I don't like
because-
Gulliman, sorry.
Well, well, fair enough. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But yeah, so you've got Primaris, you've got Space Wolves. Do you have anything else?
I have a few Age of Sigmar, well, I wouldn't say armies, they're yet to complete, but I've got a few models from different armies, but I'm yet to kind of expand on those and decide exactly what I want to do. But at the moment, I have a focus on either the Blood Angels or the Orcs. I have done some Orcs before. That was a kind of joint project between me and you.
Yeah, so the Orcs were sort of, I've mentioned it in some other podcasts, but the Orcs were basically sort of a 30 power level army to take in Zone Mortalis, where you could build up 30 points worth of Orcs or 30 points worth of 30 power level of any army, and then take it in a small Zone Mortalis game. And that's how Orcs started, wasn't it? And we sort of sat down over a couple of weekends and painted some up, and I think you really thrived in that environment. Being sort of a beginner painter, it meant that these models didn't matter if you were a little bit messier than, they didn't have to be perfect, did they? You could.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, with the Orcs, it gives you that creative side. You can muck about with colours and do different designs and things like that. But if it's messy, it doesn't really matter. Whereas I found with my Primaris, for example, I wanted to go down the route of adding different designs on the cloaks and things like that. But I found that I felt like I had to be quite neat with that. And as a first time painter, I did struggle a little bit. It took me a lot of time to get one model done. So I think with the Orcs, it will be something that I could do a lot quicker and, a lot more for the army.
Yeah. Well, the Magnum Opus, we've said earlier in this podcast, it is the masterpiece army. So typically it's sort of a culmination of different armies. So for me, for example, it'll be my Titans, my Custodies, my Dark Angels, and then my Loyalist legions of Space Marines. For you, I think perhaps you might do bits of lots of different armies for your collection. Now, I know you've mentioned Blood Angels, but if you were to expand with either Blood Angels or Orcs, which one do you think you would be more favourable towards?
I think I would be more favourable towards the Orcs at the moment. I've had a look at the models, I've tried and tested some of the models, and I really enjoyed doing it. The outcome of them exceeded my own expectations. So I think carrying that on and expanding on the kind of paint jobs on some of the models that I've already done would be beneficial to me than kind of starting a new army, which I do think would look cool if it's executed correctly, but with the Blood Angels I would want that to be as neat and as perfect as possible. So for now I'd rather kind of hone in on the fun element that is the Orcs.
Yeah, there's sound reasoning there. Now, we do have quite a bit of a backlog of Orcs, don't we? We've got a few vehicles, some of the sort of speed freak vehicles. We've also got a Start Collecting Orcs that's still brand new in the box for the collection.
Yeah, so it was a couple of Christmases ago, I think, when you were gifted the Speed Freaks boxes. They'd all been built, but it was just getting round to painting those and deciding what kind of... We had a colour scheme for them, which is kind of the bluey colours that we were mainly going for, which came out really good, but then it was kind of putting that onto the vehicles and how we can make them look a bit different to the kind of character models and the units. So that's something that we've got a backlog of and we can work towards. We've got quite a few models that we can get started with, or I can get started with, and I have got a Start Collecting box that I can try out different kind of variations and see which one I'd prefer for the units in the army.
Yeah,
in general.
I definitely think that sort of with the Orcs, you sort of have a bit more of an artistic freedom with colours. Like, yeah, they have these belief systems of the different colours, but if you want to paint sort of one sort of unit, one colour, and then another unit, another colour, you've sort of got that ability and that freedom to do so. So it's quite a good collection, I think, for a beginner. Definitely so. So the time of recording, it's actually early June 2021, and there aren't any new Orc models out, but there have been some previewed. Sort of in the weekenders, haven't there? So at the moment we've only got sort of the old Orc models, so there's not actually any new models. But out of the new models, have you seen any that you like the look of, or are you just excited to see what all the models that are coming out will look like?
Yeah, I think because the models that we've seen before are typically the kind of troops, standard Orcs, so
Orc knobs and Orc boys and stuff.
I think it will be although you've got kind of some of the mechanical elements with I can't remember the names of them, the
Mega Knobs, and the Death Dreads and
obviously
stuff.
We've already got those that are a bit different to just painting about 30 or 40 Orc boys, but you've then got the new Squigs coming out, which will be a new variation to try and have a go at as well. And I think what we have done with the help of Smorgonite is we have actually converted a Orc, and it's got a sort of I can't remember what kit we've taken that drill from. Was it the workshop?
I think it's just the Orc Mech Boy workshop thing.
We've done a little bit of conversion on that. I'm not the best at it, but hopefully we'll be able to convert some more pieces in the Orc army and just make them more individualised and cool.
I definitely think that getting the new Ghazghkull Thraka model and Makari will be a great addition to the force, because then you can either use him as Gaz and sort of have this big Orc, or you can use him as a conversion as one of the staff members down at Warhammer World said. So so I think that's a pretty solid Magnum Opus choice, having an Orc horde. As long as you're okay painting lots of infantry, I think I think you're going to be away on that, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's the perfect choice for me at the moment. I am very indecisive, so having something that I'm interested in and can work towards, such as the Orcs, that can be messy and fun, is definitely what I would like to focus on.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for talking through your plans. And yeah, we'll I think that's pretty much everything for the Magnum Opus side of things now. We've got some good plans laid out there. Now, I will do an update, perhaps a yearly update, I think, on this podcast, just purely to see how we're sort of making progress or how things have changed, plans change, things like that. So, yeah, well, thank you very much for listening if you made it this far, and take care. Bye.
Bye.